Hello and welcome to my deck tech. The deck that we will be reviewing today is Naya Humans. It's almost like Naya Blitz except the fact that instead of using creatures such as Flint Boar, we replace them with other creatures which you guys will see. So first off, we will start with lands. So our first land that we have is a Sacred Foundry. We have 4 in this deck. Followed up with its buddy land, Clifftop Retreat, which you also have 4 of. 4 Temple Gardens. 4 Sunpetal Groves. 4 Stomping Grounds, only one of which is shiny, unfortunately. And 1 Rootbound Crag. So now that we have the lands covers, let's go on to the spells. Start off with 4 Boros Elites, 4 Reckless Waifs, which is also, when it flips, a Merciless Predator, 4 Champion of the Parishes, 4 Lightning Maulers, 4 Burning Tree Emissaries, 4 Mayor of Avaburks, and when it flips, it is a Howl Pack Alpha. 4 Hamlet Captains. 4 Boros Charms, shiny. 4 Gore Clan Rampager, this is also shiny if you guys get that, yeah. And 3 Frontline Medics, it's also shiny, yay. Proceeding on to our sideboard, we have the last Frontline Medic, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Thalias, 2 Domris, 2 Gruul Charms, 3 Ray of Revelations, and 3 Searing Spears. Alright, so for this portion, I'm going to be talking about the cards in my deck and each purpose that they serve and their functions. So first off, we're going to start with our 1-drops, and our first 1-drop that we'll be reviewing will be Champion of the Parish. Alright, so Champion of the Parish here is a 1-drop for 1/1. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion on the Parish. So this guy is like your main staple in your deck. Turn 1, you want to play him. Even turn 2, he's pretty good turn 2. And you know, best case scenario, you're probably swinging at him for, I don't know, 3 turn 2. And you know, overall, he's a good card. He has late game potential or mid game potential, since you know, the +1/+1 counters just stack, as everything else in this deck is also a human, with the exception of Gore Clan Rampager. Up next, we're gonna be going over Reckless Waif. So here we go. Reckless Waif. He's a 1/1 for 1 werewolf. Pretty vanilla. And then when he flips, he becomes a 3/2. And you know, werewolf. So this guy was actually, I wasn't too sure about putting him in my deck. I really needed another 1-drop, you know, because Dryad Militants aren't humans. I was thinking of putting Experiment 1s. It might be the better choice actually, you know, since turn 2 I might just end up putting out a 2/2 creature anyways, and more times than not it'll be better than, you know, the Merciless Predator, even if it flips. So, but other than that, you know, the Waif is pretty good. In most cases, it gets, you know, the red, because there's more red sources in my deck than I have green sources. So I think that's why I'm running Waifs for now. But, you know, overall, he's not too disappointing. Up next is Boros Elite. 1-drop for 1/1, and then Battalion. Whenever Boros Elite attacks and at least 2 other creatures attack, Boros Elite gets +2/+2 in a turn. So pretty much when you attack with 3 or more creatures, and he is one of those creatures, he becomes a 3/3 until end of turn. And I have 4 of him. he's another okay one drop. He has good interactions with like Lightning Mauler and Burning Tree Emissary turn 2. So then that way you could swing in for another 7 points of damage. And you know, the battalion trigger is actually really relevant, especially after you get some of your human lords out. Up next will be one of our pseudo lords, Hamlet Captain, Jafar. Not too many people play Hamlet Captain to my knowledge. In Naya Blitz, this card is usually a Flint Hoof Boar, but I believe in this deck he's a lot better than Flint Hoof Boar. Although, you know, he has no haste the turn he comes out. He's pretty much a lord for 2, and if you pair him up with a Lightning Mauler, it gets pretty scary. So, yeah, he's a 2-drop. Whenever Hamlet Captain attacks or blocks, other human creatures you control get +1/+1 until end turn. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the +1/+1 effect, but you know, everything else does, and you know, you might end up having like 2 or 3 other humans on the battlefield anyways. So that's a good extra 3 points of damage, which is really relevant. For our next 1-drop, or for our next 2-drop, we have Mayor of Avaburk, which we have 4 of. So Mayor of Avaburk is a 2-drop. Other human creatures you control get +1/+1, and then, you know, Werewolf. So at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Mayor of Avaburk. And when he transforms, he goes into a Howl Pack Alpha. Other Werewolf and Wolf creatures you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. And then if you play two or more spells, he untaps at the beginning of the upkeep. So Mayor of Avaburk is actually really good. You know, despite it being despite it being a 1/1, it does its job. I mean, all of your other creatures, you know, get pumped. If you play him, say turn 3 with Hamlet Captain attacking turn 2, or with Hamlet Captain attacking as well, you know, your creatures get really buff. Like if you turn 1 Champion of the Parish, you can swing in for an easy like 9 points of damage, if not more. So he's a good 3 of, especially, and he's also really good like if your opponent is control, and if they get him to flip, they're just gonna have a really hard time dealing with all the extra wolf tokens, and you know, that goes in for more points of damage as well. Alright, our next 2-drop is Lightning Mauler. So Lightning Mauler is actually a really good card. There's been a lot of times where I've been able to catch people off guard with this. You know, so like say you drop Hamlet Captain turn 2, turn 3 you have a Boros Elite in your hand and you have a Lightning Mauler. So you play Boros Elite, you pair Lightning Mauler with Boros Elite, and suddenly that's, you know, 4 damage from the Elite, 3 damage from the Mauler, and then 2 damage from the Hamlet Captain, just coming out of nowhere. It's a really good surprise card, and it catches a lot of people off guard, as you know, they don't see it coming. Up next is your Burning Tree Emissary. Emissary is really an all-star in this deck. If you can turn 1 Champion of the Parish, turn 2 Emissary into Lightning Mauler, that's a 7 points of damage, turn 2, which is pretty insane. You have 4 of them. I mean, you know, if you ever get to drop more than 2 at a time or 3 at a time, it's pretty much over for your opponents unless they have an answer to them pretty quickly. But most of the times you're able to swing in for game. Up next is the only spell main deck, Boros Charm. So Boros Charm is really relevant in this deck. It's a really, even though it's a spell, you know, not a human, it's still really good for what it does. It allows you to pretty much send in all your people attacking, and if you want, you could give them indestructibility. But most time you end up, you know, double striking, and it also combos really well with the Gore Clan Rampager. So not only do you get it for trample damage, but you also get it for double strike. It's also really relevant against control matchups, because if they play, you know, like Supreme Verdict and you put down a Boros Charm, they pretty much just tapped out and end their whole entire turn without doing anything, and you get another turn to swing for free damage. And you know, if you ever Boros Charm a Supreme Verdict, you're gonna win the turn after. So this is a very good 4 of, and you know, the 4 damage is also a lot, especially after you've been swinging at them for 3 turns straight. And it's also a great top deck. The next card is a Gore Clan Rampager. It's a 4-drop, trample, Blood Rush for a red-green. You discard it from your hand, and target attacking creature gets +4/+4 and trample until end of turn. So this is really good with Boros Charm, because what you do is you tap 2, you rampage something, and then you tap another 2 to give it double strike. So even if the way that double strike works is that double strike and trample actually. So the way that if you say they have a 1 power creature and you have a Lightning Mauler, 2/1, right? So their 1 power or the 1 toughness creature blocks your Lightning Mauler. If you rampage it and then give it double strike, it'll become a 6/5 with double strike. So the first strike will hit, killing the monster and assigning 5 points of damage, and then the second strike will also hit, assigning another 6 points of damage to the player. So it's really good for catching them off guard, especially if they think they can jump block. This pretty much says, no, I'm still gonna getting my 4 points of damage, if not more. And then we also main deck 3 Frontline Medics. The only reason why I don't main deck 4 Frontline Medics is because the last spot is very hard to fill, and yeah, I needed the last spot for my land. Three Frontline Medics is good because it answers pretty much Sphinx's Revelation, it answers Bonfire, it also answers Rakdos Return, which if they play Rakdos Return, you're probably gonna have all your creatures out on the field anyways, so they're gonna die. But most of the times it's really good against Sphinx's Revelation to prevent them from getting card advantage, because once they're Revelation, it's pretty much game. Moving on to the sideboard. So one of Frontline Medic, this is pretty much sided against Bonfire and Sphinx's Revelation. If I really need the 4th one, I'll put it in there. I also carry 2 Rest in Pieces. This is pretty much against Junk Reanimator. I mean, once the Angel of Serenity comes out, it pretty much just dominates your board. You can't really do anything about it. So drawing a Rest in Peace in Junk Reanimator matchups is definitely a great card. Another card that I have is 2 Thalias. I'm actually looking to get a 3rd one. I'll probably replace it with a Searing Spear, but it does its work against control. I mean, like, the only other spell that I run main deck is Boros Charm. So I mean, like, it's not gonna affect me at all, to be honest. Whereas against control, they're gonna have to pay 1 more for everything. It also gives you an extra turn to survive against Supreme Verdict, and an extra turn to draw your Boros Charm. 2 Domris. I play Domri pretty much mostly against mid-range matchups and control matchups. Like versus control, Domri just dominates. They may have an answer to deal with their creatures, but not many times do they have an answer to deal with planeswalkers. And this planeswalker will just give you creatures and creatures and creatures until you eventually just -7 and then swing with them with haste creatures. We have 2 Gruul Charms. So Gruul Charm is a really good card. Sometimes I bring it in against Junk Reanimator, depending on how consistent they are. I'll read it out loud. So, choose 1. Creatures without flying can't block this turn, or gain control of all permanents you own, or deal 3 damage to each creature with flying. So Gruul Charm is really good if you're against like a token matchup, and say they like Lingering Souls and Lingering Souls again. If you Gruul Charm, it'll just completely decimate them. It's also good against green-white aggro, since they have big body blockers. If you Gruul Charm and get past them, I mean, they're going to be taking that most likely lethal damage. The next card that we have is 3 Ray of Revelations. So the thing about our deck is that there are a lot of 4-ofs, and if they Detention Sphere one of our cards, they're probably going to get 2 or 3 also. And that's actually a really big play. It's going to set us back a lot, so we want a way to deal with it with Ray of Revelations. Ray of Revelation also answers banned enchantments pretty well, since you have a 3-of. It's actually a really powerful side deck card versus banned enchantments, because then you'll just remove everything. And since it has flashback for green, you'll 2-for-1. You'll 2-for-1 their enchantments every time. And then I also have 3 Searing Spears. The Searing Spears I'm not too sure of. I think I just put them in there because, who doesn't need removal? But, I mean, one of will probably replace Thalia when I get her. And the 2 more Searing Spears, I'm still looking for a replacement, but maybe a Dryad Militant, but we'll see how that goes.